Today's reading was inspired by a poem used in the Johnny Walker Dear Brother advertisement. I've placed a link in the description to one of the versions of the ad and the text that accompanies it. It always brings me back to a time in life when it was still possible to simply be, when the world felt open, unfinished, and full of a quiet mystery. A time when exploration mattered more than direction, and when experiences had not yet become memories. What stays with me most is not just the nostalgia, but the awareness of transition, how something so vivid slowly becomes something we can only revisit in fragments. A shift from living inside moments to looking back at them from a distance. This text reflects on that passage, on the loss of innocence, the fading of curiosity, and the moment when the world stops feeling like a question and begins to feel like something already explained. I sometimes try to remember the exact moment when everything began to feel smaller, not in size, but in possibility. When the paths we walked stopped leading everywhere and began leading somewhere specific, as if the world had quietly drawn its boundaries while we were not paying attention. Before that, there was a time when nothing felt closed. Afternoons stretched without purpose, friendships existed without explanation. We did not ask where things were going because the present was enough. I remember walking, running, cycling, having fun, sometimes without speaking. The silence, not heavy, but companionable, as if the mere fact of being there was all that mattered. We did not know then that one day we would have to explain ourselves, who we were, what we were doing, why we had chosen the lives we had chosen. Back then, the world did not ask for explanations. It simply allowed us to exist inside it. There was a kind of trust in those days, not trust in the future. We never thought about the future, but trust in the continuity of the moment. We assumed, without saying it out loud, that things would remain as they were, that we would remain as we were. I think what I miss most is not the time itself, but the absence of self-consciousness. We had not yet learned to observe ourselves from the outside, to measure our lives against invisible standards, to wonder whether we were falling behind or missing something essential happening elsewhere. We were not yet divided. We did not know that there would come a time when we would look at other people's lives and feel the faint, persistent pressure of comparison. We did not know that the simplicity of those days was not permanent, but something fragile that would slowly dissolve without announcing its departure. If I could speak to that earlier version of myself now, I would not warn him. I would not tell him to hold on to anything. I would simply thank him for trusting the world without needing guarantees, for believing that closeness did not require constant reassurance, for living without the quiet fear of missing out on some larger, unseen life. Because what we had was not ignorance, it was presence. We inhabited each day completely without anticipating its loss. And perhaps that is what remains available to us even now, not the past itself, but the capacity to meet the present without immediately stepping outside it to evaluate whether it is enough. Some friendships belong to a particular version of ourselves, and when that version changes, the friendship does not end. It simply becomes part of the landscape that shaped us. My friend, you are there, somewhere in the distance of my memory, walking beside me on a road that no longer exists, in a world that had not yet learned to fence itself in. And when I think of you, my friend, it is not with sadness, but with a quiet recognition of how much of who I am began there, in those ordinary hours that we believed would continue forever. Perhaps growing older is not the loss of that world, but the gradual realization that it was never outside us to begin with. It was a way of seeing. It was a way of being. And sometimes, unexpectedly, it returns. In the way light falls through a window, in the sound of distant voices at night, in the sudden feeling that for a brief moment, nothing is required of us except to be where we are. When that happens, I am there. I see it again, not as a memory, but as something still alive. What stays with me after remembering those years is not a desire to return to them, but the recognition that something essential from that time still exists within us. We may not be able to recover the simplicity of those days, and perhaps we are not meant to. Life changes us and the world becomes more complex, but the capacity for curiosity, for presence, for openness has not disappeared. It has only grown quieter beneath everything we have learned to carry. What we can do is treat those memories with compassion, not as something lost, but as something that shaped us. We can allow ourselves to remember without trying to hold on, to acknowledge that those moments mattered and still do, even if they now belong to another time. In a way, we begin to carry a private library of experiences, small, ordinary hours that once felt insignificant, but later revealed themselves as the foundation of who we are. Not everyone's childhood was easy, and not every memory is gentle, but most of us can recall at least one relationship, one place, or one period when we felt a genuine sense of being, of belonging without needing to explain ourselves. Recognizing that in our own lives can also change the way we see others. We begin to notice those moments of openness in people around us, especially in those who are still young, still discovering the world without fully understanding how fragile that stage can be. And perhaps the most meaningful way to honor the past is not to recreate it, but to protect that possibility for someone else. To offer patience, attention, and kindness in the moments when it matters most, helping them build their own library of moments that one day will sustain them in ways they cannot yet imagine. In doing so, we do not return to who we were, but we allow what was best in that time to continue forward, quietly shaping the lives that come after ours.